Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Marian White, and with me is my co-host, Ken Bialo.
Good evening, Marian. How are you? Welcome home.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Welcome home.
First, I did want to say that another amazing thing has happened to the founder of, what is it called?
Furniture Share House.
Yeah,
The
been way too long.
The founder and prime mover of Furniture Share House, yes.
Dear Kate Bialo.
Yes.
And you told me that she's been named the Grand Master
Grand Marshal.
Grand Marshal.
That word there is Marshal, M-A-R-S-H-A-L-L.
I guess I'm still jet lagged.
Yes, you are still jet lagged.
For the Sound Shore St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Yes, in 2020, yes.
And we hope it's a nice warm day.
We hope it's a decent day, certainly warmer than today. Certainly warmer than today, but it was quite an honor. As you know, let's see, there have been a variety of, how long's the parade been going on? 10, 12 years. And I guess last year or the year before, Valerie O'Keefe was the Grand Marshal.
Right.
And I've forgotten who was the Grand Marshal last year, but we've tended to walk in this thing all the time just because we know the people who are behind it from the Village of Larchmont, who are really good people, and they've got a really great thought here. It's a fundraiser for sending one or more kids out of, I believe it's Mamaroneck High School, or it could be Rhinebeck High School also, on scholarship money.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
So it's really a fundraiser.
It is a fundraiser. It is a fundraiser.
Oh, well, that's what a nice thing.
But with all the fire trucks and the brouhaha and the Cub Scouts and the Girl Scouts and the Little League teams, it's pretty cool. As we do things around here, right? So
well,
now welcome back. Welcome back.
Well, I guess I'm not all here yet.
You are here, and you are going to tell us. Marian has been on a 3-week, as they say in Australia, walkabout. It's a walkabout in New Zealand.
Yes.
So you are going to tell us all about it. Where'd you land? Where'd you go? What'd you do? Did you have anything other than lamb?
Listen, the
Yes.
most interesting thing
Yes.
about New Zealand is that there are more sheep than people. They're everywhere. We drove and really made a circle around the South Island. We only went to the South Island.
Right.
And there's sheep everywhere. Mm-hmm. And you go to a restaurant and you can't find any lamb because they export it all.
Export, yeah,
so it
right.
took 4 or 5 days before we could even find any lamb for dinner.
So what do they serve in the restaurants? In the South Island?
Well, they have fish, and then they have, pasta. It's
Yep.
it's not known for its food, except if you can get some lamb, it's really good. What it is really great, it has very good wine. And that's and it's all screw tops, which really
You don't have to have a little thing in your pocket. That's good.
So that's very helpful. So
Were the people nice?
the people were wonderful. The people are from all over. I mean, we stopped saying we were from New York because that was a lot to grasp for certain people. So just being from the U.S. But there are so many Japanese, Australians come all the time. We had a taxi driver who had immigrated from Russia. I mean, it's like a holiday all the time because it has this beautiful scenery, and its major business is hospitality and tourism.
Oh, no kidding.
So it's having fun.
Oh, I thought their major business was sheep, but I guess that was this one.
More sheep than people, clearly. But they had a lot of venison was on the menu. They raised deer.
Mm-hmm. For food?
Yeah, for food.
Okay.
Right. So it was.
Are there a lot of people there? I mean, residents, I don't mean tourists.
Well, it's increased a lot. There are places that are very isolated, and then there are only people that work in restaurants or hotels.
Right.
But
Kind of like Maine.
yeah, maybe. But in Christchurch, where we started,
Right.
is a big place, which was affected by earthquakes in 2011 and then later, and like their major cathedral still is just shell-shocked from, it has a whole wall off and it hasn't been fixed yet because there aren't enough people to really fix everything that needs to be fixed in Christchurch. So
Christchurch is the capital?
No, you go into Auckland,
Auckland, okay.
and that's where you have to pass through customs. and that took at least 2 hours, so we missed a flight.
Oh.
I know, it was a real pain. But anyway, it was great, you know, when we got to Christchurch. But it's a vibrant place, but they have not been able to fix much of the damage from the earthquake, which is really sad.
Wow. So from there, you went to where?
We went north.
North on the South Island.
Yes, north on the South Island to the Marlborough Sounds. We like nature, and so we went to see nature. And it started out by seeing the Lord of the Rings movies. You know, and I don't know if you've seen them, but it's just beautiful.
Yes.
And so what I really love are snow-covered mountain peaks, and they're most every place. And the mountains are very layered, so you don't just see one mountain, you see a range behind it and behind it and behind it. I mean, it just is amazing.
Canadian Rockies or something.
Is it? Yes. Yes, that's what I love.
So that was the photograph that you sent.
You mean I can just go to Canada and see that?
I don't know if you can just go to Canada, but I think you could.
Well, it would have been easier.
That's the photograph that you sent us, right, with the layered mountains, the layered snow-peak mountains.
Yes, that's what I
Foreground,
love.
background.
Oh, well, see, there you sort of see, there's the sheep. And it was fun because it was spring there, so there were lots of babies and also flowers and things. But that is what I love, are the mountains. See, that's...
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so majestic.
Is any of that stuff glacier?
Well, not these. I have other pictures
Nice,
with
but it's just
glaciers. And we couldn't...
365 days a year.
See, look at that.
Oh,
Isn't
my
that
goodness.
wonderful?
Yeah.
That's called the Lonely Tree, and all the Japanese tourists come, that's in Wanaka, come and take that picture. For some reason, it just fascinates them. That's
Beautiful.
Bill and me walking around the mountain, but we're above the clouds. That's a cloud line, and we're above the tree line.
So that ain't snow. That are clouds.
Yes, those are clouds.
Uh-huh.
We took one of the famous tracks in New Zealand, and it was listed as being moderate the first day, moderate the second day, and easy the third. Well,
Bicycles.
no, this was hiking.
Walking. Okay.
Right. You know, we're pretty good at walking. But the problem is, you were going up, and it's not like people have come and created these nice hiking areas where you can just go. So at one point, I was leading a little group, and all I saw in front of me was a big rock that was like this tall. And
This tall?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
this tall?
no,
Okay.
you know, up to there.
That's about, that's
And there
about
was a
3.5
little
feet.
slash here,
Uh-huh.
and I looked to the guide and I said, well, where's the trail? And that was the trail. There was a little place to put your foot, and then you got over. So I am bruised everywhere because of all the rocks.
Now, how many of these hiking thingies, you were there for 21 days or something like that?
3 weeks. Well, yeah. You know, you lose a day when you go, and then we had a 31-hour day. Thursday was 31 hours at least, coming back.
Right. Okay, so that was tiring. But so you had this particular trip that you just showed,
Right.
that particular hike, and others?
We went hiking other places. We were supposed to be able to land on the Franz Josef Glacier in a helicopter, but they were having bad weather. And so the weather was all right up to 3,000 feet, but when we were supposed to go, it was not doable at 4,000 feet. Mm-hmm. So that didn't work. Mm-hmm. So we got a refund, but we were still able to go and from the bottom look up at it, but not to land on it and walk on it.
Was this one of those bubble kind of helicopters?
Well, we didn't get that close. We didn't see they told us in advance it wasn't flying.
I see, okay.
Well, they're very careful about not killing people. Well, I mean, some of them are, because some of them say never injured anyone or something like that. You know, no deaths. And others don't
It's a
say no
terrible ride,
deaths.
but we never killed anybody.
Right. And other ones don't say anything.
Mm-hmm. I see.
So we don't know.
So how many of these sort of this a 2 or 3 day hike that you were on there? You
was
don't
a
come back.
3-day hike.
You go out and you camp
You
out?
stay
as
in a lodge,
Oh, yeah.
and it is a lodge. It has wine, but the electricity goes off, the generator goes off, because they have to helicopter everything in. So, you know, all the food and stuff has to come by helicopter. So the generator goes off at 10 and doesn't, at PM, and then doesn't start again until 7:30. So it gets freezing there. But
Do they supply blankets and sleeping bags and stuff, or you have to lug
oh
your
no,
own from
we
the
were
States?
in private suites.
Oh, so there's like a hotel.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
so you
it's
walk a
sort of
day,
the
and then you go to a
basic.
hotel, then you walk a
And you get
day
some
and
wine.
okay.
We were the
Okay.
last group because the hike might have been moderate for people from New Zealand and Australia, and then the Japanese hike a lot. So, but we decided that for other countries, it was probably challenging. So we were probably misled. So anyway, Bill and I were at the end of the line the whole time. When we would get to the lodge, they'd already taken the free cheese away. So we never had any
Starving.
cheese.
Starving.
But it was nice. It was an international group, and one gentleman was a semi-professional photographer, and he sent pictures around to all of us. So
That's great.
we can show that to you sometime.
How large a group? A dozen, 2 dozen?
Oh, we were so lucky. It was 14. It would have been 50 if it had been summer.
Wow.
And there would only be 4 guides. So we, the people in the back, always had someone with us, making sure we could make it. I don't know how you take care of 50 people of varying
Wow.
degrees. I mean, we're not
Yeah.
the worst that have ever done this. You know, when you have a couple of people like that, and you might have a few deaths. I mean, it's, well, you're going along, and if you look over and you've only got about this far, you know, to the end,
That's not for me.
yeah, so you just look straight ahead.
And sunny days or rainy days or what?
Oh, they had had major snowstorm the week before along this route, and it was the guides that were on it, and they had to be helicoptered out because
Wow.
even they couldn't get out. And then we had 3 beautiful sunny days. So we were very lucky. That made up for the helicopter miss.
So that was one 3-day period of hiking. Did you do other
Yeah, we
multiple
did
day
other
hikings
hikes.
or
No,
just day
no,
hikes?
just day hikings. We made it so that we would drive one day and then spend the night and have another night at the place, you know, to sort of get a sense.
That's great.
And then, well, thank you for asking about it.
Are you kidding?
I think everyone should, 2 things. They should go to New Zealand
Okay.
if you love mountains.
Right.
And they should take a 3-week vacation. That's just the greatest thing.
Now this was with Bill.
It was with Bill.
Okay, well there you are.
Well, he was very handy in lifting suitcases and stuff like
Oh, it's
that.
good to have that.
Yes, very good to have him. So, and now I'm back and slightly incapacitated, I guess, from jet lag.
Ah,
So-
well you'll overcome that in no time.
Well,
You will.
someone said it'd be about 7 more days.
Drink a lot of water. That's what they keep saying. Drink a lot of
Okay.
water.
Well, anyway, thank you for asking.
I think that's a great travelogue. Thanks.
Just remember, more sheep than people.
More
But
sheep
you
than
can't
people.
eat them because they're not in the restaurants.
But they don't make sweaters there, right? They export the
Oh
wool.
no, we saw alpaca. They have the wool, but
Right.
they're different sheep. The eating sheep are different from the, the clothing sheep.
Right.
And then they
Does the
have
sheep know that?
no, I don't think so. And then they have llamas there, and not too many llamas. But then lots of things are sheep. Merino is mixed with possum, and that's supposed to be really great
Merino wool.
with possum.
Sheep shears.
Right.
Plus possum
Possum
shears.
Yes.
Makes merino.
Well, no, merino is a wool, the
Right.
lamb.
No, I know.
Right,
Yeah.
and then you add possum to it,
So that
or
when-
alpaca.
But what do they call that in the stores?
Well, I don't know what they call it here.
Okay.
They may not discuss it.
Yeah, I was going to say Merino is something that,
Yeah.
oh, this is
Yeah,
Merino
this is
wool, which is
great.
very fine wool, yes, exactly.
Well, I know you really want to, while I was gone, there was a big central meeting.
Yes, there was.
And I read that it was very impressive, and Better Larchmont is doing a great job.
Well, I'd like to think that there were probably 100 and, I don't know, I counted 135, just doing a head count. Somebody said they had 150, but the number was, it was held, the meeting was not held in the village boardroom. It was held over across the street in the village center, and there was plenty of chairs, and we set up some more chairs as more and more people kept coming in. The only people who were there who spoke in favor of this mess was the developer and his henchmen. And, you know, the mayor and the board sat there, they didn't say too much. But there were a lot of presentations made by people who, for a variety of reasons, not least of which is safety, traffic, environmental stormwater, the baloney that they've been selling about what the actual tax value of this thing is, what's going to...
Did that come out?
Well, it came out, but you see, here's the problem, is that the developer is the village board and certainly the mayor are leaning in favor of this project. The mayor said in a newspaper article, well, the only issue is, you know, how big it's going to be. That's not the only issue, Mayor. I mean, the developer in the papers, and we did this show a month ago or 2 months ago, the developer in the papers that were filed with the village back in April, after a year or a year and a half of working on this in secret with the village board, the papers were just full of garbage. I mean, they're full of misrepresentation, all kinds of nonsense. People say stupid things, and then when you call them on it, they say the same stupid things over again. Like you didn't even exist. They don't answer. There's no dialogue. And that's the problem with this, is there's no dialogue, meaning the developer gets up, makes a presentation, says, and he did this at a work session about 2 weeks ago. I wasn't there, but somebody who was there very close to me reported on all this and said, developer stood up and said, I've solved all the problems. You know, I've knocked off 2 apartments and I've rounded some corners and 3 bedrooms, a couple 3 bedrooms I made into 2 bedrooms. So what's the problem? And I've solved the environmental problems and I've solved the safety problems. That's just garbage. It's just flat out, I'm not going to say a bad word,
please.
It's just garbage.
Be constrained.
Yeah, it's just garbage. But you can get away with that because there's no dialogue. And if you're this developer in particular, you don't listen to anybody anyway. What you want to do is sell this damn thing so you can make $30 million for selling these units. That's what you're interested in.
Right, and then
So
move on.
anybody who says anything is, and he said it in there's a loop. I don't know what the loop is. It's some kind of thing on the internet here in Larchmont. And he's taken paid ads on the loop.
Paid ads?
Paid ads on the loop,
Whoa.
right? And the loop, in fact, sent a note saying, hey, how would you all like to take paid ads? And we said, we don't do paid ads. You want to cover the story fairly. Don't give us this baloney about paid ads. But the issue that was true at the work session, and what led to the mayor's picture in here saying, read this damn thing. I think this is a perfect location in the heart of the commercial district for a new mixed-use building. The only issue for us now is the right size. So this guy comes in and he trots in, and you know she's already on board, right? I don't know how many people on the village board are on board. And the guy comes in and says, well, I've solved the problem because I made it a little teeny bit smaller, right? And I've solved the safety problems, I've solved the parking problems, I've solved the tax problem, I've solved the overcrowding school problems, I solved the stormwater problems. Holy smoke, the guy's a magician. To listen to this nonsense, it's like there are substantive problems with this, including, not least of which, is groundwater about 8 feet deep. And this is, you go down in the earth there, you go look at that Palmer Avenue project, the building that burned down, that hole there is filled with water all the time. But he's got it solved, the developer for this Centro thing. He'd just tell you. Now look, he's a real estate guy. For all of you who are having trouble out there understanding what a real estate guy does, he sells. So, for example, look at the President of the United States. All of you out there who hate the President, this guy is the President in small measure. And I mean small measure. I mean, he doesn't have billions of dollars worth of real estate, but he's got something. They sell. It's their job to sell. So whatever you say is a problem, you're a bunch of curmudgeons, he said that in here, a bunch of concerned citizens who really don't know what's good for the village and don't know what's going on. Here, listen here, pal. Let me just tell you, and I say this to the village board as well. It is a delusion to believe that you can put any building in there, whether or not you clean up the storefronts, which the developer owns and is letting go to seed, right? This is part of his pitch is, well, look, I bought this stuff and it's garbage, right? You could fix those up. You don't have to build a 6-story building, right? But it's deliberate. But you don't have to look at that. All you have to know is there are 230 storefronts. I went around and counted them again. I counted them when I was mayor, and I counted them again 2 weeks ago on Saturday night. 230 storefronts. There aren't enough people to fill those with nail salons and hairdressers and
bars.
And well, there are enough to fill bars, but that's a different story. and dry cleaners and optometrists and wine stores. And you can't fill 230 storefronts. You build more storefronts and you think that's going to revitalize what? By definition, you have too many now. You had too many when I was mayor, which was 15 years ago. And you got too many now because Amazon is even bigger now. And people buy, you don't have to do a damn thing. You can buy a car on the internet. And you can see when you drive up the post road, there are like 7 empty car dealerships right there opposite that, and the gas station that used to be owned by Dawn. It's a delusion to believe that if you put new buildings in, that's going to solve, quote, solve any problems. In fact, there are 2 new storefronts on Palmer Avenue. Nobody rented them. The reason these things aren't rented, and this is the truth from the time that I was mayor and Cheryl before me, the landlords don't live here. They leave the management of these things to the locals, local real estate people, and they want a lot of money for this because they get a fee. The more money they bring in, the bigger their fee is. And these people, the owners live in Florida, and they live in Connecticut, and they live in California. They're not here. They don't see this. This developer guy doesn't live in Larchmont. It's fiction. But we're going to redevelop downtown. We're going to add 17 or 19, whatever it is, 21 parking spaces in an inaccessible spot on a one-way street. I mean, listen to it. It's just insane. And we're going to put 4 new storefronts instead of the old storefronts that we're letting deteriorate now. And this is going to solve a problem. You know how? There's going to be 50 new residents. Are you nuts? You think that these problems, which have been here from the time I moved here in 1975, are going to be solved by you bringing 50 new residents to this building? 60 new residents. Wow. That's going to make Starbucks a month. It's going to make all the jewelry stores on Palmer Avenue. Oh, they're going to be rolling in dough. Why is that? Because you brought in 50 more people. It's insane. The whole thing's insane. And then the mayor stands up and says, well, we're going to have our consultants take care of this because they're going to look at the water and they're going to look at this issue, the tax issue, the assessor's going to give us opinion and all this stuff. Here's a secret for everybody out there who doesn't already know it. If the mayor says, I want this project, and you work for her in any capacity as a paid consultant on the village payroll, you are not going to say, Madam, the facts that you gave are completely wrong. And that's not going to happen.
Well, you're not going to keep your job.
Well, and it'll be uncomfortable for you to continue to work.
Right.
Right? So if for example, the assessor, the mayor said in some piece, oh, it's going to be $740,000 in taxes. That is just so absurd that it's unimaginable. And yet, she says, well, we're going to have a work session. And the assessor is going to come in and say, I don't know what the assessor is going to say, but if I was in the assessor's shoes, I'd say $740,000. If he said it, that's where I'm at. Because of the dynamic, when you work for the village in either a consultant capacity or an employed capacity, it's difficult to take on opinions that have already been expressed by somebody who signs your check. It just is. It's a small village all over Westchester. It's exactly the same damn thing, except perhaps for New Rochelle and maybe Yonkers, which are big cities. New Rochelle, I don't know what they got, 100,000 people, 90,000 people. Yonkers got 150,000 people.
Wow.
In these little dinky places like Larchmont and the town of Mamaroneck and the village of Mamaroneck, which has anywhere from 6,000 people to 20,000 people, the pressure is to do what's going to play. So if you work for the village, paid or a consultant or on the payroll, you're not going to challenge the mayor. You're not going to say, this is wrong. You're not, if the mayor wants a particular development, you're not going to say, this way of disposing of stormwater is idiotic. This guy, seriously, the developer says, we're going to put storage tanks in to hold the stormwater, and then we'll pump it slowly into this particular storm drain at the corner of Vanderburg and Went. Well, here's your problem, buddy. You can't build a retention system that's big enough. You don't have enough pumping power. You have no place to put the pumps. You have no place to put the retention basin that would be large enough to deal with a serious flow. And when you pump it to that stormwater entry, you are pumping into a small pipe. What do you think is going to happen? Why do you think there's flooding in the first place? There's too much water and not enough piping to take it away. If you want to build a new pipe all the way down to Long Island Sound,
Wouldn't that be great?
right? You want to build it, I don't know what it is, down a mile maybe down to Long Island Sound. You want to build that. You want to cut through the streets and do that. I invite you to do that because that's about a $10 million project. And I know that that's not going to come out of your budget if you sell these properties here for $35 million. It ain't going to work. The economics don't work. So by definition, the economics to solve the stormwater problem, although it's only one of many problems, don't work. Doesn't work. You pump it, you're going to pump it to a pipe that's this big, and the pipe that's this big is still going to overflow because it can't
Right.
carry the water away fast enough. It's only a gravity system to begin with. It's not a pump system. So, the answers and the excuses and all this stuff are just,
Well, it's very
they're
painful.
well, it's not. And there's another meeting on the 18th at 7:30 p.m., which right now is scheduled for the village courtroom. I hear you. I got it. I got the sign. And it's going to be, and now if
In
we
the
have
courtroom?
150 people, if we have another 150 people, how's that going to fit into that little dinky room? That's a big question, and it's a question that has been put to them. But
Well, they're
for
trying
sure,
to
if there's
dampen
100 people,
attendance.
well, that's what the idea is, to shrink
Yeah.
the attendance. Because at the same time, they're going to now reveal the parking study. You don't know what these people are doing. Somebody presented them a project that was going to go over, a gigantic project, go over the parking lot at the railroad station. And now they're going to talk about charging you when you park on the street on Palmer or Chatsworth. You're going to have to go to one of those meters and fumble for 10 minutes to find your credit card and then punch in the thing and then remember your light, all that garbage, right? I don't know how much that's going to raise. We're going to find out. I'm sure it's going to be a gigantic number. It's just
Millions.
It's going to be a $1 billion project, and we have one trustee who's in charge of this, and she's going to promote the heck out of it. But the answer is, you're driving people away from shopping in the village at the same time that you're making noise about, well, I can add 19 spots, and that'll be great because everybody's going to want to go up into a 2-story parking lot on Wynn Avenue, right? At the same time you're talking about that, you're going to bring in parking meters? What do you think? Literally, what are you thinking? In the end, this is November 18th, 7:30 p.m. in Larchmont Village. At the end, if there's no plan, we're going to wind up with all this hodgepodge. Could you be quiet over there? Hodgepodge of stuff. There'll be a big building here. There'll be a parking meter there. There'll be a gigantic
Right, you mean
critter.
no overall master
There's
plan
not
for
a
how to
master
develop?
plan. No,
Okay.
a plan for the business district. If you
Okay.
think you want to revitalize it, you got to figure out what you want to do and how that's going to work, and not just take the first project that comes along and say, yes, developer, we're so happy to have you, because the next guy or the next gal is waiting in the wings with another project that's even worse. And before you know it,
I thought you might say better.
there will be no character in the village.
Right, which is why we
That
came
is the
here.
point of Better Larchmont, and that is the point of people coming to that hearing on November 18th at 7:30 to make their voices heard.
Well, thank you for all the work that you're doing. I really appreciate it.
I'm not doing nothing,
Well,
just talking. A little thinking maybe.
thank you very much, and thank you to the talent that's all on the other side of the camera.
Thank you.